I searched on YouTube and just could not find a really good box blind window that you can build yourself. There are some out there, and some are real complicated, some are real basic, but I just didn't find anything that really worked for the way it served the purpose that I wanted it to serve. So I came up with something that I think is going to work. It's about $25 a window when it's all said and done, but you can do it yourself. It's pretty easy. The materials are easy to get at any home center, and it takes about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes per window to build, so I'll show you how that goes. First thing you need to do is decide how big of a window you want. In this case, I'm building an Octagon box blind here, and I want my windows to be 10 inches wide and 32 inches high. This makes a good archery window. I'm a compound bow shooter, so I'll be able to shoot out of a window that size. And in addition to that, I was able to find this acrylic sheet. It's about 1/4 inch thick, actually 0.22 inches thick, I think it's called. Clear 0.22 by 20 inches by 32 inches. And what I did is I ripped it in half, so I've got two pieces that are 10 inches wide and 32 inches tall. And that's a perfect size for me. For these windows, this 20 by 32 piece was, I believe, $24 at the home center. And so you cut that in half, it's about $12, $13 per panel. And so my panel is exactly 10 inches wide by 32 inches long after I ripped the piece in half. So 10 inches wide, 32 inches tall. What I want my rough opening to be is a 1/2 inch bigger on both ways. I want it to be 10.5 inches wide and 32.5 inches tall. I need 1/4 inch of forgiveness all the way around with the way this is going to be done. The inside of your window will need to be framed out. I've just used 1.5 by 1.5 here, basically. In fact, I went with a treated piece for the bottom in case this is where they'd be most likely to get some water hanging on there, so I just used a treated piece. I had one laying around, scrap. And I got 1.5 by 1.5 going up the side and 1.5 by 1.5 on the top. And your plywood on the outside needs to be flush. It can't be sticking out over, or you're going to have trouble. So it needs to be flush with your 1 by, or even if it's a little bit shorter, that's okay too, but you just can't have it sticking up anywhere, can't have a lip anywhere. That's going to cause problems. Next, you need to install the hinges. And these windows being 32 inches high, I've got 3 hinges, and the hinges I'm using, they're 2-inch hinges. They've got 2 screws in each side of the hinge. They were $2 for a pair at the home center. I need 3 of them, so $3 a hinge. That's $3 total on the hinges. I'm putting the hinges on the acrylic sheet with these aluminum rivets. They're 3/16 by 1/4 inch, and I like these because they're aluminum. They won't corrode. They're easy to put on. They hold the hinges real well once they're on there. This is an aluminum, I think it's called a rivet gun. If you don't have one of these, they're about $10, and that's what you use to install the rivets. So what I did is also, when you lay the hinge down on the acrylic, you basically lay it down so that it's folded. It's important to get these straight, otherwise your window will open up and it'll bind if you don't get your hinges straight. So I just fold the edge down, hold it there, and drill my 2 holes. This is a 3/16 inch drill bit. You can drill right through the hinge. You make your 2 holes there, and then I centered the middle one and also did the bottom one. I just actually used a 1 hinge width up from the bottom, and that's where I set these hinges. And the center one is actually center on the sheet, which is 16 inches, I guess, to the very center of it. So the head of the rivets on the back side of the hinge, and then that 3/16 inch rivet will swell up and make that hinge, secure that hinge real well to the acrylic sheet. So it's taken 3 rivets and all. I admit this pack of rivets was like, I don't know, $3-4 or something. So, and there's 50 in there. They'll go a long ways. The next thing I've done is I've mounted my acrylic sheet to the inside frame of the window. And I paid attention to leave about 1/4 inch gap all the way around, including on the hinge side here. There's a 1/4 inch. There you can see it opening. All the way around the bottom too. I actually set it on a 1/4 inch shim to get it 1/4 inch off the bottom. and the inside also. So 1/4 inch all the way around. If you did this right, that's what you'll have. When I put the hinges on, I found that it's easier to put one screw in where you want it at 1/4 inch and then pre-drill a small pilot hole so that your screw will go into the center of the hinge and it won't tweak your hinge in or out. It's worth the effort to do this right and keep those hinges straight, both on the acrylic sheet and on the frame, because then it'll just have a nice, quiet, smooth operating hinge if you do it that way. Something I found out the hard way. So if you want to make it easier for yourself, yeah, pre-drill a little hole in every one of those before you run that screw in there. Next thing you'll need to do is block the window in. I'm going to use a couple of pieces to just block it from folding in any further for now. I'm going to put screw there and up on top, and also one there on each end of this, just to keep the window from opening in, because I'm going to be pushing in it from the outside when I mount the weather stripping on there. One thing I didn't mention earlier is it is helpful too to take a little bit of the protective film off before you put your hinge on. I didn't do that for the top and bottom hinge, so I'll have to probably score it with a utility knife a little bit, or cut around the rivets first on this side and then score around the hinge on the other. I don't like to take the whole protective layer off so I don't get it scratched up, but it's definitely easier to take it off if you've got a little bit peeled around your hinge, rather than try and cut it out later. For the weather stripping on the window, I'm just using this. It's just garage door seal. It's got a rubber flap on it. This is a 9-foot piece. I think it was about $8 or $9, and that'll be enough to do about, I don't know, 1.5 windows the size that I'm doing. So, door weather seal or something like that it's called for garage doors. I've just used my miter saw to cut this weather stripping. It works pretty good. I laid it with the rubber piece out, either up, or it probably works even a little bit better if you flip it over and do it down. So for my window opening, I had 10.5 by 32.5. So I'm going to do the top and bottom weather strip first. I'm going to do the bottom one in like that, and then the top one will go in upside down, and then we'll do the sides. So to start, we need 2 of them that are 10.5 inches wide. But before I put them in there, what I've done is I've cut a 1/2 inch of this rubber flap off. It's about 1 inch in all. I found it doesn't need to be that big for this, and that extra 1/2 inch on the top and bottom will make your window 1 inch taller and 1 inch wider, your view out the window. So by cutting that strip off, it just makes it easier. It's just not necessary for that. These were designed for garage doors, of course, but for windows, it seems to work pretty well. There's what it looks like with the 1/2 inch ripped off. What I do is just take a piece of scrap plywood that's a 1/2 inch thick. I lay it down right on the edge of the weather seal like that, and then I have a clean edge when I cut it off the back side, so with a utility knife. So I've done that to all 4 pieces that are going to go into this window. So the bottom piece goes in first. I've started a couple of screws in there just so that it's easier to put in. These are like cabinet screws. I found them in the screw section where you actually hang cabinets. I think they're treated, and they've got a little bit bigger, kind of like a pan head on them, so it'll hold this stuff down a little bit better. You could use the aluminum soffit nails or whatever, I guess, or 3-penny galvanized nails or whatever, but I like to screw things because it seems like more often than not I end up taking them off before once or twice before I get it right. So I'm going to put 2 screws in the bottom and 2 screws in the top, maybe even a 3rd one in there for good measure once it's all said and done. But when I put these in there, I just lay it in with the rubber flap up. It's going to go against the plexiglass or the acrylic sheet. I'm going to push a little bit in there, and that's why we put the stoppers in there, so that this won't slide open when I'm trying to install this. So I'm just going to put a little pressure on it so that the rubber meets the acrylic, and then screw it down. So the bottom piece and the top piece have both been installed. Now this is 1.5 inches on the stud there, and then a 1/2 inch plywood, so I've got 2 inches total. Take a 1/4 inch off for the plexiglass. And this is going to end up sticking out about a 1/4 inch or so, maybe 3/8 or maybe even a 1/2, but that's okay. I'm going to use this as a ledge to run a bead of caulk all the way around the window. If you really want to get fancy, you could rip this off in your table saw, this 3/8 of an inch or whatever, so it's flush, and then put some trim around your window. I just don't think that's necessary here. So I'm just going to use a bead of caulk and go all the way around it when it's all said and done. Here's what it looks like with all of the weather stripping installed all the way around. So I've got 5 screws in the vertical pieces here. 5 screws on each side, and I had 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom. It's sticking out, yeah, I'd say close to a 1/2 inch all the way around. That's going to be a nice spot to lay a bead of caulking in all the way around and seal it up weather-wise. I'm not going to put any more trim on there. I think that's going to do the job just fine between the screws and the caulking going around there. Now on the inside, I've taken those corner supports off, got rid of those. I put a couple of closer tabs on there. I just made these out of vinyl trim. You can buy those little tabs that hold screens in or whatever. They're metal with a hole in the center, or make your own. There's all kinds of different things you can do to hold that in, but when it's closed, it's flush. It's nice and flush right there. Now when I open up this window, it's completely quiet. It's smooth operating. I didn't go any wider than 10 inches here because I didn't want it sticking in front of the other windows that are going to go on that wall. But now this window can be operated. I mean, there's not much there. There's no frame on it, so there's visually from the outside you don't see much. Got these closers that I put 2 of them on there to hold it in. It's got a nice seal against that rubber flap on the outside, so there shouldn't be any air leak or water leaks coming in. And that's it. Now it'll be time to take the protective wrapping off there, but I'm not going to do that until this box blind is done, and I'll probably paint around it first too, and I'll keep paint from getting on there. So I'll take that protective wrap off last. But there you go. That's how you can build a really nice box blind window for about 25 bucks and maybe an hour of your time, not even, maybe 30 minutes after you do the first one. They'll go pretty quick. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. Have a good day.